Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. I'm your host, Jesse Milestone, and this is meant to offend, so if you're offended, good. You're probably not going to be offended by today's video unless you are from and or really like the state of Michigan, because this video is all about how the state of Michigan sucks. That's right, it sucks. If you haven't been there, take it from me, it sucks. Now, I've only actually been to one city in Michigan, that's Detroit, so we'll talk about that a bunch. But then also, if you haven't heard, in which case you probably live under a rock, Flint, Michigan had a pretty severe water crisis a couple years ago. And I say, if you haven't heard, you live under a rock, because the person who asked me to talk about this, to address this water crisis, is Wolfgang from Germany. He's one of my patrons, and he said, even I in Germany heard about this, and I believe that there's still some ongoing stuff, so, can you talk about it? Yes, I can. We'll get to that. But first, my personal experiences in this wonderful city of Detroit. So, first, before I rip it to shreds, is a thing to be thankful of Detroit for, and that's Motown. Motown is a wonderful genre of music sprung about in the 50s and 60s it does credit its birthplace as Detroit. Why you would want to give that place credit for anything, I don't know, but Motown is a wonderful style of music. For those of you who are, possibly even my age and younger and don't have any cultural or historical appreciation whatsoever, maybe just never listen to music. Motown is a wonderful musical genre. It features a lot of up-tempo songs with a lot of great backup vocal tracks, good, fun, happy music, not always, but just really, quality vocals, quality, just good music, very in the doo-woppy kind of style, and it's just good. It sort of encapsulated an era. I mean, if you're not familiar, things like Diana Ross and the Supremes and other bands that I'm of course completely blanking on all now because I'm talking about it. I swear that's not the only one I know. But Dancing in the Streets, that's a Motown song. I bet you thought David Bowie wrote that song, and if you did, kill yourself. I hate that. I hate people who don't know who the original artist is of a song, and they're like, this is the David Bowie song because it's popular and I've heard it from him first. It's not. Kill yourself. Just like that song, Hooked on a Feeling, that everyone knows from Guardians of the Galaxy, right? That's not the original version of that song. B.J. Thomas did Hooked on a Feeling, and it's so much better when he sings it. The Monkees did not write I'm a Believer. Sorry, the Monkees did write I'm a Believer, not frickin' Smash Mouth. So if you learned that song from Shrek, it's not written by Smash Mouth. That was written by the Monkees or whatever, studio wrote songs for the Monkees because they were kind of a made-for-TV band. And this one's slightly more acceptable, but All Along the Watchtower, not written by Jimi Hendrix. Not a Jimi Hendrix song. This is actually written by Bob Dylan. Jimi Hendrix just does the amazing cover of it. One last one. Contrary to popular belief, Nine Inch Nails did not cover the Johnny Cash song Hurt. It was the other way around. Johnny Cash covered the Nine Inch Nails song Hurt. But anyway, I digress. Back to Detroit. So aside from Motown, what else has Detroit given us? Cars? I guess that's important, but if they didn't happen in Detroit, they were going to happen somewhere. There's nothing about Detroit that was like, we have to make cars here. It's not like Philly cheesesteaks in the water in Philadelphia. It's like you could make cars in another city. It just happened to be the city that they made cars in. Race riots, that's the thing we can probably all do without, so thanks Detroit for that. So like I said, I've been to Detroit. I have visited the city of Detroit once. It was for work. I had to go. It wasn't up to me. And as we're coming in for a landing, I look out the window on the plane, and I'm like, I don't really see much. And then I realized I wasn't wearing my glasses or contacts, and I can't see shit without my glasses. So I put my glasses on, and I looked back out the window, and I was like, looks pretty much the same. Now, before I went to Detroit, the thing that everyone told me about Detroit, and you've probably heard this before, it's gotten so much better. That's not really what you want to hear about the city you're about to visit. You can hear it's great now, it's fine now, or even most of it's fine now. It's gotten better. I mean, look, Jimmy was a heroin and meth addict, and now he just does cocaine. He's so much better now. That's not untrue, but I still don't really want to be friends with Jimmy, and I'm definitely not lending him my car. So, problems. And I also, because I do this, I'm going to fun cities, and one of the few things I get to do when I'm actually working on these trips is eat. So I'm working all frickin' day, and then sometimes I get to go eat somewhere. So, I I looked up, like, okay, what kind of foods should I eat in Detroit? What foods is Detroit, the city, known for? You know, I go to Baltimore, I eat some crab cakes. I go back to Philly, I eat cheesesteaks till I die. I go to New York, actually I go to New Haven to get my pizza. Go to New Haven to get pizza, you know, so on and so forth. So what am I going to eat in Detroit? What is foods is Detroit known for? They're known for fish and chips. I guess this makes sense, right? There's that big lake there where they can fish out of. Sorry, there's like hair in my face, and there's like little strands of hair. Anyway, not important. Important part is, there's a lake they get fish out of, so I'm sure it's very fresh and very good. But fish and chips is kind of an England thing. Like they're the fish and chips place, so you're just kind of borrowing that and being like, well, we can do that too because we have good fish here, ha. So that's like, okay. I mean, you can have fish and chips, but no one's ever going to associate fish and chips with Michigan. No one's ever going to be like, fish and chips, go to Michigan for that. That's not ever going to happen. And if it is, that person should be smacked in the face. So you have my permission. If anyone's ever like, man, if you want the best fish and chips, go to Michigan, smack them in the face. Especially if they say best fish and chips in the country, maybe just like pat them on the head and say, I'm so sorry, because they're probably from Michigan. If they say best fish and chips in the world, then smack them in the face. Other foods that it's known for. Detroit specifically is known for the Coney dog. That's as in Coney Island dog, as in Coney Island, New York, as in Coney Island, not Detroit. So that's another thing. It's sort of sad when you can't have anything to yourself and you just have to like borrow from people around you. They did that again with the deep dish pizza. Michigan has its own special deep dish pizza. What makes this unique from the Chicago deep dish pizza, you ask? It comes in a rectangle. Because that matters. Well, I mean, it was a way to know who was the least popular kid in your friend group, because you were the one who got the middle piece with no crust, so you couldn't hold on to any of it anywhere. Though I guess if you used a fork and a knife, you got the most cheese. So there's that. Anyway, so that's Detroit's like food. That's Michigan food. Not doing so hot there. Also, and this was really upsetting me when I was in Detroit, my favorite beer, actually, I will say one other good thing about Michigan, my favorite beer probably ever does come from Michigan. It's the New Holland Dragon's Milk. It's an imperial stout, but it's really creamy for an imperial stout. It's got a lot of flavor, and it's a very high % alcohol, which is very important, especially when you are a heavyweight and you just want to get drunker faster. And if you just like delicious beer, and at the end of the day, high alcohol just sounds like high happiness to you. So they have that. While I was in Detroit, guess how many times I found that beer? 0. No times. No New Holland's Dragon Milk for me in the fucking state that brews it. The nearest, like, locational place to New Holland, which is, I think, a place in Michigan, but who cares because it's in Michigan, is, that I've got this beer is Wisconsin. Wisconsin has this beer all the fuck over the place because they're like, we know what's up. Michigan is like, we made a good thing and we don't even know that it's good, so we don't even have it, sorry. We just send it other places because we're not allowed to have nice things in Michigan. Speaking of nice things you're not allowed to have in Michigan, if you live in Flint, water. Water is one of those nice things you are not allowed to have in Michigan. Because in 2016, they changed the water supply to come from the river, and the river was full of lead. Nobody, before doing this, was like, our supply system to get water out of the river is all made out of lead pipes from a bajillion years ago. Also, like, how does that one work? You switched your water supply? Didn't you have to put in new pipes, or did you just repurpose old pipes that had been there from some other time? You were like, these pipes seem fine. We don't need to test them for lead or anything. So they just started poisoning all the residents of Flint. And then they were like, crap, this sucks. We're gonna fix these pipes, so you guys just go buy bottled water in the meantime, because that's fun for everyone. I love spending money on water, which is a thing that I should be getting, not necessarily in a plastic bottle that's destroying the environment. So there you go. Flint is also destroying the environment because it's promoting, just plastic that just dies, just kills fish and the world, and everyone dies. So that, in addition to people in Flint dying from drinking its water. So as of like last year sometime, they were like, well, technically the water is safe to drink, technically, but we're gonna advise that you continue only drinking from bottled water sources until we have all of the lead pipes replaced. All of the bajillions of lead pipes we use to bring you your water, we now have to take away and replace with pipes that don't contain poison. So That project is set to end in 2020. That's right, Flint, Michigan is going to have undrinkable water for a grand total of 4 years, provided that the construction finishes on time, and because it's construction that's paid for by the government, odds are it won't. So, suck it, Flint, your water is poison. That's ridiculous. Like, when you think of places that have water shortage issues or, like, contaminated water, you're like, I'm not gonna drink the drinking water in Mexico. I'm not gonna drink the drinking water in this random tiny European country I had never heard of before I set foot on its soil. You know, I'm going to worry about water conservation in places like Southern California or perhaps all of Africa because it's a desert. Well, not all of it, but like the deserty places in Africa that don't get water. I'm not thinking of like Michigan as a place where I need to have a water crisis. I'm not thinking about, you know, a developed place in a supposedly the greatest country in the world that can't frickin' run its water through pipes that don't poison its population. For that alone, like, Detroit aside, for that little thing alone, Michigan should just, like, fail. Should just lose its sovereignty as a state. That's not a thing. They don't have sovereignty. Michigan should just get kicked out of the union, is what I'm trying to say. We're just gonna, like, boot it out. Canada, if you guys want it, you can have it. You probably don't want it because you might have more sense than we do. Michigan, you can just be your own little sovereign nation and tout all of your amazing fish and chips and your Coney dogs, except at that point, because you're a different nation, New York's probably going to start a war with you over that. So you're going to lose that one too, because guess what? You're not winning that war against New York. It's just not happening. New York, another place with a city that I hate. But we'll talk more about that later. Anyway, so yeah, Michigan, you're terrible. You don't deserve to exist. Everything that's good about Michigan can be had other places, like the skiing. There's a bazillion other states that have good skiing, and if there are other things that are good in Michigan, I'm sure you can have those things somewhere else too. That's all I gotta say. Guys, I'm doing a podcast. It's called the Sword Experience Podcast. It's related to Adrian Paul's Sword Experience. He's the dude who played Highlander in the TV show. He played Duncan MacLeod in the Highlander TV show. And I talk about swords. So if you want to hear me talk about that other part of my life, you can check that out on the swordexperience.com/podcast, or just search Sword Experience Podcast. That's what I do because I can never actually remember what the right URL is. Anyway, so that's fun. Go ahead and check that out. This video is dedicated to my wonderful patron Wolfgang, who wanted to hear my take about a crisis that he heard from about all the way in Germany. If you want to be like Wolfgang and be like, hey, Jesse, talk about this thing, and have me be, okay, I'm actually going to do that like within the next month, go ahead and check out my Patreon. That's a wonderful community where you guys can help me support my yelling habit. You also get fun things like just tidbits about my life, fun extra videos, pictures, etc. that you don't get anywhere else on the internet. So that's pretty cool. And it's wonderful. It's just good, and it makes everyone happy, especially me. So do that, and we'll talk soon.